Hi, and welcome back to a new episode of the Guns Book Club in the World Book Club. Yay! And today, guys, we're on an next episode because today, guys, we're on episode number 368. And we continue our journey with influence, the psychology of persuasion by Robert B. Kennedy. And today, we are going to read from page 182 to 184. 172 to 174 in the book. Title: How to Say No. One protective tactic we can use against the authority status is to remove its element of surprise, because we typically misperceive the profound impact of authority and the symbols on our actions. We are at the disadvantage of being insufficiently cautious about its presence in compliance situations. A fundamental form of defense against this problem, therefore, is heightened awareness of authority power. When this awareness is coupled with a recognition of how easily authority symbols can be faked, the benefit will be a properly guarded approach to situations involving authority influence attempts. Sounds simple, right? And in a way it is. A better understanding of the workings of authority influence should help us resist it. Yet there is a perverse complication. The familiar one inherent in all weapons of influence. We shouldn't want to resist altogether, or even most of the time. Generally, authority figures know what they are talking about. Psychian judges, corporate executives, legislative leaders, and the like have typically gained their positions because of superior knowledge and judgment. Those, as a rule, their directives offer excellent counsel. The trick is to be able to recognize without much strain or vigilance when authority prompting are best followed and when they should be resisted. Posing two questions to ourselves can help enormously to accomplish this trick. The first is to ask, when we are confronted with what appears to be an authority figure's influence attempt, is this authority truly an expert? The question is helpful because it focuses our attention on a pair of crucial pieces of information: the authority's credentials and the relevance of those credentials to the topic at hand. By orienting in this simple way towards the evidence for authority status, we can avoid the major pitfalls of automatic deference. An illustration or two is in order. Let's examine the highly successful Robert Young Sanka coffee commercial in this light. If, rather than responding to his Marcus Webley MD association, people had focused on Mr. Young's actual status as an authority, I'm confident that the commercial would not have had so long and productive a run. Obviously, Robert Young does not possess a physical training or knowledge. We all know that. What he does possess, however, is a physical title, MD. Now, clearly, it is an empty title, connected to him in our minds for the device of play acting. We all know that too. But isn't it fascinating how, when we are veering along, what is obvious often doesn't matter unless we pay specific attention to it? That is why is this authority truly an expert question can be so valuable. It brings our attention to the obvious. It channels us effortlessly away from a focus on possibly meaningless symbols to a consideration of a genuine authority credentials. What is more, the question simply impels us to distinguish between relevant authorities and irrelevant authorities. And this is a distinction that is easy to forget when the push of authority pressure is combined with the rush of a modern life. The Texas pedestrians were busted into city traffic behind a business suits job offer a prime example. Even if the man had been the business authority is the closest suggested he might be, he was unlikely to be a greater authority on crossing the street than other people, including those who followed him into traffic. Still, they did follow, as if his label authority overwhelmed the vital difference between relevant and irrelevant forms. As they bothered to ask themselves whether he represented a true expert in the situation, someone whose actions reflected a superior knowledge there. I expect the result would have been quite different. The same process applies to Robert Young, a man who is not without expertise. He has fashioned a long career with many achievements in a difficult business. But his skills and knowledge are as an actor, not a doctor. When viewing the famous coffee commercial, he focused on his true credentials. We will realize quickly that he should be no more believed than any other successful actor who claims that Sanka is healthy. Suppose, though, we are confronted with an authority we determine is a relevant expert. Before submitting to authority influence, it would be wise to ask a second simple question. How truthful can we expect the expert to be here? Authorities, even the best informed, might not present their information honestly to us. Therefore, we need to consider their trustworthiness in the situation. In fact, most of the time, we do. We allow ourselves to be much more swayed by experts who seem to be imperial than by those who have something to gain by convincing us. And this has been shown by research to be true around the world. By welcoming an expert that stands to benefit from our compliance, we give ourselves another safety net against undue and automatic influence. Even knowledgeable authorities in a field will not persuade us until we are satisfied with their messages represent the facts faithfully. When asking ourselves about such a person's trustworthiness, we should keep in mind the little tactic compliance practitioners often use to assure us of their sincerity. They will seem to argue to a degree against their own interests. Correctly done, this can be a subtly effective device for proving their honesty. Perhaps they will mention a small shortcoming in their position or product. Oh, that is the disadvantages of Benson and the edges. Invariably, though, the drawback can be a secondary one that is easily overcome by more significant advantages. Listerine. The test you ate 3 times a day. Avis, we are number 2, while we try harder. L'Oreal, a bit more expensive but and worth it. By establishing the basic truthfulness on minor issues. The compliance professionals who use this ploy can then be more believable when stressing the important aspects of their argument. I have seen this approach used with a devastating effect in a place that a few of us recognize as a compliance setting, the restaurant. It is no secret that because of shamelessly drawbacks, servers in restaurants must supplement the earnings with tips, leaving the sink on a good service side. The most successful waiters are and waitresses no certain tricks for increasing tips. So also know that the larger a customer's bill, the larger the amount of money likely to come to them in a standard gratuity. In those two regards then. In those two regards, then building the size of the customer's charge and building the percentage of that charge that is given as a tip, servers regularly act as compliance agents, hoping to find out how they operate. I applied for waiter openings at several fairly expensive restaurants. Without experience, though, the best I could do was to learn the busboy jobs. The best I could do was to learn the busboy job that, as things turned out, provided me a propitious vantage point from which to watch and analyze the action. Before long, I realized what the other employees already knew. The most successful waiter in the place was Vincent, who somehow arranged for patrons to order more and tip higher than for anyone else. In fact, the other servers were not even close to him in weekly earnings. Guys, guess what? This is the end of this episode. So guys, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate the thanks to you too to invest with me, and I can't wait to see you on tomorrow episode. ולכנס בקופים דבר די כבולם. אני זה בגעת עם תגמוספים, as always. ביי ביי.